Heather.
Thank you, Rob. Well, President Trump slamming the fake news double standard, calling out the media for going after Donald Trump Jr. and giving Hillary Clinton a pass. You can see one of his tweets there. So is the president right? Is the media distorting democracy? Here to debate is former DNC senior advisor Zach Pecanis and columnist for the Washington Times, Madison Gesiotto. Thank you both for joining us this morning.
Thanks. Great to be with you.
So, Madison, I'll start with you. And one simple question, why are we still talking about this?
Right. I mean, and this is what we've seen for over the past 100 days. President Trump has received the most hostile press coverage of any president in the United States history. And similar to what we saw with Ivanka at the G20, we're now seeing Don Jr. being criticized largely because he's President Trump's son. If it were any other person in this meeting with someone who happened to be Russian and nothing came of the meeting, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah, let's take a look at one of those other tweets that came out from President Trump. In another tweet, he said, with all of its phony, unnamed sources and highly slanted and even fraudulent reporting, hashtag fake news is distorting democracy in our country. So, Zach, what do you think? You disagree?
I absolutely disagree. I mean, I'm not sure where the anonymous sources are here. The reason we know that Donald Trump Jr. lied about whether he had the meeting and the content of the meeting is because he himself released the email. We're reading the email and we find out that not only he lied, but President Donald Trump lied. Vice President Mike Pence lied when he said that the members of their campaign did not have communications with those connected with the Russian government. That is just not true. And the reason we know that is because Donald Trump Jr. himself released the email.
He released the emails because there was an anonymous source who released the information to the New York Times, and the New York Times then contacted Donald Trump Jr., correct?
Well, it clearly weren't wrong, and it wasn't fake news because it was backed up by the real email, right? So that kind of undermines the president's point.
Madison, but he released the emails because he believed he had nothing to hide, and that in what he claims, he just simply forgot about this meeting, and it wasn't of any significance anyway.
Right. The meeting had absolutely no significance. Once again, I want to reiterate the point that if this were anyone else, specifically a Democrat, we wouldn't be having this conversation. The media is in the pocket of the Democrats, and we can even look right to the study released by Harvard in May showing that, let me quote this, Trump has received unsparing coverage for most weeks of his presidency without a single major topic where Trump's coverage on balance was more positive than negative, setting a new standard for unfavorable coverage of a president. You know, over 80% negative coverage in his first 100 days and over 96% on some topics like immigration and his personal background. And I think this is just unacceptable.
And then beyond all of this, Zach, if you listen to Jay Sekulow, one of the president's attorneys, he says, bottom line is, what about it was illegal? In his opinion, nothing.
Well, I mean, first off, that's for the special counsel to decide, not for Donald Trump's lawyer to decide. And I think there's plenty of evidence that suggests that this is potentially part of a larger pattern that could be something that is illegal. But I'd also like to point out that it is not just the liberal media or the mainstream media that is talking about how this meeting is really bad for the Trump administration. It's a conservative columnist, Charles Krauthammer, who's a Fox News contributor, who says that this is not only evidence of collusion, but cannot be called fake news because Donald Trump himself, Jr. himself, released the email.
Yeah, I think a lot of the concern from the conservative media and other conservatives is that that this was left out in terms of information that the meeting actually happened to begin with, not that the meeting itself was illegal. Thank you both for joining us. So appreciate it this morning.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.